Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, across the country, around the world. Welcome back to the Kerbal Space Program and our US historic attempt, recreation attempt, that's what I should say. Last episode, we launched what was the Freedom 7 aboard the Mercury Redstone 3 up into space and back down again, or at least my recreation of it. Now we're going to go into the Mercury-Atlas 6 with the Friendship 7. Yeah, last one was Freedom. This is Friendship 7, which carried, I believe, John Glenn. Yes, John Glenn. This is when he actually orbited. We'll jump out here to do some visuals to give you some ideas of what it really looked like in the past. So we have, again, the Mercury-Atlas 6 featuring the Friendship 7 capsule carrying John Glenn to the first US manned flight in orbit. Here we have a bit of a cutaway. You can see some of the inner stuff. I like the runways, raceways on the side. I'm not sure what they're for. You'll see them again here. I really like seeing them in this. I believe this is a model that you can purchase online. But they're like, it's unsymmetrical. It's a neat looking ship. Just to have all those raceways and things. And again, the asymmetricality leading down to the two outer boosters. That's really cool. Here it is on the pad before launch. Yeah, you can still see it's silver. I thought it was black and white, but it's not. It's silver. Just you get the reflection off of stuff. Launch pad. And then here it is lifting off with that first orbital attempt with John Glenn on board. And this here is my recreation of the Mercury-Atlas 6. It's not silver like the other one is, like the picture I showed you. It doesn't have it's not connected. It's Kerbalized because that's how things work. But it's kind of got the skirt that surrounds the center rocket. They're clipped through a little bit, but it should be okay to take off. And yeah, these are just big, not big, but they're good-sized fuel tanks on the sides. Are you full? Yes. Yeah, it's what I could do with KSP. The size is actually pretty close, the height, as well as the engine nozzles. I don't know if there's the data on this, but in KSP, but I know these nozzles are closer to correct. Looking at the information online, the Atlas rockets used a Rocketdyne LR105, and they had a diameter of 3.05 meters, about 10 feet. These are only about a meter and some change, so they're not as big as what they had on the Mercury-Atlas rockets, but they're closer. They're bigger than the other ones. Obviously, the Reliant and the Swivel are only 1 meter, barely 1 meter. I think these are closer to 2 meters. Either way, they're closer to what it should be in terms of the size and the alignment and whatnot. And again, this is a stage and a half rocket, because with 1950s, effectively 1950s technology, even though this launched in 1962 in February, it was again effectively 1950s technology. You know, a couple years old technology, because that's how you build things. You can only plan so far in advance. They didn't have the tech that was reliable to launch or to light a stage, to ignite a stage mid-flight. At least not that they trusted yet. Yes, we have the retro pack up here to get back home, so that's even a risk. But this way they light all three, and similar to like what you do in KSP where you stage and you asparagus. Sadly, there's no asparagus staging that we've really done anywhere in the world, I don't think. That's really just a KSP thing. Excuse me, but you still light all three stages at once. 1, 2, 3. And then, well, then we release the launch clamps, check yo staging. And then once we get up, we release those two, and the center one keeps on burning. So, I think we're ready to make an attempt to go orbital. Real quick, I'll talk about that. We're going to launch straight up for about 100 meters per second, or until we get to 100 meters per second. Then we're going to pitch over to the, well, it's 90 degrees. It is to the east. The planet is rotating a certain way to the east, so you want to go that direction. You gain 100 and some odd meters per second of velocity rotating with the planet. If you were to go the opposite, you'd have to fight it. Or polar, you'd have to fight it as well, a little bit. Not as much, but a little bit. So we'll go to the east. That's standard orbital insertion, rotating with the planet because you gain that speed. And re-entry is a little bit gentler as well. We'll launch, like I said, up to 100 meters per second in speed, and then we're going to pitch over just to the right a little bit, and we'll see what's called the prograde marker, the yellow marker, not this wing, but the yellow marker. We're going to pretty much stay within that because that's going to keep us streamlined, aerodynamic, and that should get us into orbit just fine, because I've done this before, and I think I know what I'm talking about again. Question mark? It's been a while since I've taken anything into orbit in KSP, so this might be a struggle, but I think I can make it happen. Alright, so we got SAS on. I've got a pretty high thrust-to-weight ratio. I know this because I have MechJeb and I can see it for thrust-to-weight and surface-level thrust. So I think we're going to back off to about 2/3, because that should be plenty. And then once we ditch the outer stage, the skirt, as it's called, we'll bump the center stage up to full throttle. And I think that should do just fine for our first attempt at an orbital insertion. Again, recreating the Mercury-Atlas 6 that carried John Glenn. Let's go. Good. A little ponderous, a little slow, but then it builds up. You can see the speed picking up. Nice and steady though, nice and solid. Nice, no wobbles, maybe minimal wobble. I can see some of these things up here wobbling just a touch, but not bad. For the most part, stable. So we're going to hit the 1,000 meters now. So that's the other marker, 1,000 meters or 100 meters per second to start your gravity turn. I wait for the speed. I think I wait for 100 meters per second now, and we start ticking over. Fortunately, all three of these guys gimbal, so they are what's going to steer us. Whether that's true on the Mercury-Atlas 5, 6, Atlas 6, I'm not sure, but it's what I'm doing. So there, you can see that yellow marker with the circle and the 3 lines sticking out. That is our prograde marker that is showing the direction of travel currently. We want to get that moving over to the east, toward that 90 in that direction. We want it to be more or less lined up on that line. We don't want to go too far out of that circle, because then you're drifting out of what is effectively aerodynamic streamlining. You're going to get into drag. And the stage is going to burn out in just a moment or two. I think before it burns out, I'm going to kick it into full thrust now. There, it's gone. Stage separation. Ooh, it blew up. It blew up on me. Ooh, ow, ow. Whoa, we rotated though. I don't know why we rotated. That's no fun. I didn't tell it to roll. I did not engage a roll program. Alright, so we're going up. We got a lot of time on this engine still. So we're going to watch our orbital information. Our apoapsis is 25. That's pretty good. 26. It's climbing. And our time to apoapsis is rising as well. Whoa, whoa. Come on, kick it over. There we go. Unfortunately, Jeb is not an experienced pilot, so I have to do all of this manually, which is oh so fun. We're up high enough to where I don't have to worry about the prograde or staying within that prograde circle as much, because there's not much atmosphere at this level to bother us. Getting into orbit is about going up, yes, to get into space, but it is probably more so, actually it is more so about going sideways. You got to go sideways at a fast enough speed so that you actually get into orbit, so that as you're falling back toward the gravity of the planet, you're being pulled in the orbit and you just stay in orbit. Alright, so yeah, having to be touchy with this. Our apoapsis is 54. 70 kilometers is the Kerbin-Kármán line. Kerbin-Kármán line. That's what you need to get into the atmosphere. This is a very, actually very nice orbital insertion. I normally do them a bit steeper, but this has been really flat. We're in the atmosphere for longer, yes, but there we go. We're going to burst out of the atmosphere. So we really want to stay on that prograde marker then, or a little before it. We want our periapsis to go from negatives, and it is going from negatives up to a positive number. Oh, like, why am I not having control? Because I'm mousing over this. When you mouse over the MechJeb things, you don't have any controls. So it was like not doing what I was telling it to do. So our orbit is going to be pretty high, and we're going to try to do this all without shutting down this engine, because that's not how it was done in the real world in this mission. All right, so periapsis is going to be positive. Camera change, orbit. And come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on, move that periapsis out of the atmosphere. There we go. Oh, wow. Okay. That's cool. Oh, nope, 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 nope. Not retrograde, not retrograde. That's stupid. So apparently, Jeb can level up in situ. He's now a 1-star pilot. So I got these extra buttons. So this is a really, really... Okay, let's kill that. This is an insanely high orbit. That is an insanely elliptical orbit. That is not what I meant to do, but we got there. We have an apoapsis of 2 million meters, so 200,000 kilometers, and a periapsis of 72. Right, because we're past the periapsis. So we're going to stay in the atmosphere. That's fine. And because I have the fuel, and I have the time, and this is KSP, we're going to slowly rotate. Actually, let's ditch this guy, because we can. Bye-bye. We're going to rotate around to retrograde. Prograde is the direction you're traveling. Retrograde is negative to the direction you're traveling. So we're going to point ourselves retrograde so that we burn in a retrograde direction. And that is going to lower our apoapsis. Because we are currently at, 76 and climbing. This is, again, not what they did, but I'm going to do this because I want to bring this apoapsis down, because that's just a ridiculously high orbit, and that's not what I want for this first flight. So I actually overdid it on the fuel. We have 1,200 meters per second of delta V left in this this center stage, and we don't need it. I could have been much sloppier with a lot of that maneuvering. Okay, hold on. We don't want that. Let's see. This is going to rotate really, really slowly because we're just using the reaction wheels on that thing. I think I want to burn this way. Is it this way? Nope, not that way. I guess I want to burn the other way. What is that? Normal? Anti-normal? I forget which those are. Or... No, normal and anti-normal are the red. Those are... Wow, it's been a while since I played this game and I've forgotten what they are. But I want to burn to rotate this a bit so that this becomes my new periapsis. Oop, there. Go back, go back, go back. Yes, so that's raising up my periapsis. Good, okay. Now we can point retrograde again and continue lowering our apoapsis. Just a touch. I mean, we don't have much fuel left, do we? I mean, there's still 1,000 meters of delta V, so we have some left. I just got to watch the periapsis. I don't want that to drop too much more. Again, in the real operation of this flight, killed the thrust. Yes, sorry, thinking to myself. In the real operation of this flight, like what we saw in Hidden Figures, as soon as he got into orbit, he dropped this mid-stage. But because this is a Kerbal Space Program, and we can, I am going to make our orbit a little bit neater. And by putting it between the retrograde marker and the... I forget what that's called. This one here. Shoot, I fail. I'm going to look it up and put the text here later. But burning between those, we can rotate the orbit and lower the apoapsis simultaneously. So this is kind of rotating around one way or the other, and this is dropping as well. And it's going to circularize probably around 150-ish, 120. Yeah. So I'm good with that. That's a circular-ish orbit within about 30 kilometers circular orbit. So we've gotten into orbit. This guy's been used up. I used up most of the fuel in it, right? Yeah, there's a touch of fuel in some of these guys, but not much left. So I overdid the fuel by a bit. Again, I could have been much sloppier with that insertion, and in the real world, they probably were. As much as they are NASA scientists, they didn't get things perfect because they're just humans trying to do it for the first time. Well, first time for the US. Obviously, Yuri Gagarin, the Russians did it first. So we don't need all of this, so we can separate that and just have the little bitty booster with his retro pack still attached underneath the heat shield. And yeah, you got the shrouding here, so that's kind of annoying. I can't get rid of the shroud. Not in here. No. Yeah, so that's a little annoying, but oh well. It's the way the game works. In the real world, the retro pack was attached directly to the heat shield with straps, and then he popped the straps off. So there we are. Jebediah is in space. We cannot EVA because he's the astronaut complex hasn't been upgraded yet. Plus, John Glenn did not EVA. That came later in a 2-man capsule. We'll get to that. That'll be one of the next missions, I think. I have to do research on the next thing. I'm kind of only going one step at a time here. But there we are. Jebediah is in space. And since we're here, or we're in orbit, let's take a crew report. Yay, 10. Not that we need it. Lights on. Yay, it glows. And let's take a look at him inside. Boop. Oh, right, the door just kind of pops. And the door's in a weird place. Is the door not in the same place as it belongs? Yeah, the door kind of pops up a little bit, but it gives you a better view of what's going on inside. Kind of gives you an idea of where that door is a little bit. That's cool, though. You can see his like little oxygen canisters and some other pipes and controls and things. You can see he's got some pedals, and oh, I don't like this orientation. Oh, there we go. Got a control console. He's got, I don't know what that box is up front. Maybe an oxygenator, NASA logo, little window up top, and some controls. I think he has controls. Oh yeah, his controls are in his hands. I can see it. There's like a throttle and a collective. If you were a helicopter pilot, that's what it would be. Alright, and that's cool. He upgraded in flight. So there we are in orbit around Kerbin. And when you press M, you go to the map mode. We saw that. So we can see some of his information about things, you know, which is good. Very good to have. We do not have upgrades yet, so we don't have patched conics, so we can't see too much of orbital information, like timed apoapsis. I wouldn't have this normally, but I do because of, because of MechJeb. If I had done this flight totally stock, without MechJeb, I would have had to pop out to this to monitor my apoapsis and periapsis. But because I have MechJeb, I can see things a little bit easier, and it just makes life easier. So is this the KSC? That is the KSC. We're going to focus on Kerbin. And we're going to time warp. We can only warp so fast. We're going to go around. That's it. We can only warp at 100 times because we are in only 50 at some places because of how low we are. So we'll take our 3 orbits and then we will deorbit. There's one. And you can just see, yeah, that was the KS. Oh no, that's the KSC right there. That was the desert over there. That's KSC. So he's orbiting, and is he staying prograde? No, he's just staying pointing that way. Yeah, he's rotating around. Normal, anti-normal. Radial and anti-radial. I remembered. I'm sure I'm going to write that down for myself. But radial and anti-radial. Oh, there's our deposited stage. It's just going to live up here. Well, we'll destroy it later. effectively, we're going to send the destruct code, and it's going to blow itself up. Oop, there's the crater. Wow, Kerbin looks kind of glitchy. Looks a little pixelated. It might be my settings. There's the desert again. And here's... I always think this looks like Africa. Here's the KSC again. So there we are, having done 2 orbits. So the plan at this point... Oh, I don't have maneuver nodes, can I? Nope, I can't do any maneuver nodes. I don't even know if I have the trajectories mod, like, excuse me, active right now. That's a pity. But we're going to, about here, I think, we are going to burn retrograde. So let's go ahead and we're going to get ready for it. So we're going to set ourselves actually retrograde so that we burn that away, which will lower our orbit. And this is going to work out a little bit efficiently. We're close-ish to our apoapsis, which is good. You're moving a little bit slower at your apoapsis because you're higher in your orbital. That's just how orbital velocities work. You're moving slower here, a little faster here as you whip around, slower up here. So changes are more dramatic. If you apply a change here, the effects are a bit more dramatic. So we're about 3/4 of the way around from periapsis to apoapsis. So this should help. Right. So we're going to do this burn from the map screen because I want to. Because it's how you can see what it's going to do. Yes, I can look at this, but I really want to burn and see what's going to happen on the map screen. Oh, let me throttle up. Well, it would help if I activate the engine, because I haven't yet. But I can do it this way. There we go. And we have 389 meters per second of delta V. So that's not much, but it should be just enough to get ourselves into the atmosphere. Oh, yeah. So let's see. Our periapsis is coming down. This is going to become our apoapsis. And you can see it's moving. And you can see this is barely ticking away at the thrust. We've still got lots of time of thrust here. I want to take this fairly gently. I didn't plan this quite correctly. I should have burned over here. I want to splash down somewhere here or over here. It looks like we're going to splash down somewhere over here maybe. And splash down is kind of what I want. Actually, I'd rather splash down than land on a planet. We're going to, let's see, 41. That's pretty low. I have a trajectories mod, I think. It might not be active yet because I haven't progressed far enough in space. Oh, did I? I didn't have the orbital contract, did I? I did not. Oh well. We're doing it anyway. So, if that's 20, I can't tell where I'm going to hit the atmosphere. I think we're going to go to where this just gets into the surface. And we still have tons of delta V left. And we can do a bit of quick math here to figure out when we're going to hit the atmosphere because of this. Periapsis, 1, 0. Oh, wow. There we go. Periapsis, negative 22. So we're going to re-enter in about 8 minutes. Our orbital period is 30. So if we say this is 30 minutes, this is 15 minutes. So 8 minutes, 7 and some change is going to be about here. So we might splash down here. I think we might. I think we might just splash down here. We might end up on this continent. I kind of hope not. But as with, what's it called? John Glenn, as we saw, again, in Hidden Figures, we're going to leave the, quote, retro pack on. It should be okay. We've slowed down a bit, although we're going to slowly pick up some speed. And we're... Are you retrograde? There you are. Oh. Oh, right. I'm like, why am I not seeing the planet? Because I'm rotating this way because we are in an orbit that is not stable. It's going to decay. We are going to fall. Yeah, so we're gonna stay like this. Anyway, we're going to stay retrograde because we want our heat shield and our butt end and the retro pack to be facing down. That's where it's more aerodynamic this way. Yes. Okay, so we've got 6 minutes. Let's go ahead and warp, 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 warp. Okay, so we should re-enter in just a few moments. We're going, yeah, almost 2,300 meters per second. We are now just touching the atmosphere, which starts at 70 meters for Kerbal. Kerbin, yes. And as we skim the atmosphere and it slows us down, we should see, yeah, we can see our Mercury-Atlas is dropping here. We should see it start to, yeah, slice through the planets. Yeah, I think we're going to end up crashing. No, parachutes, we'll be fine. We'll end up landing the Friendship 7 somewhere over here. I would love if we could splash down, but I don't think that's going to happen. Alright, normally at this point I would time warp through, but because we are doing our first re-entry after an orbit, we're going to let it play in real time because that just feels more real to me. It feels more correct. Our speed is still increasing because we are being pulled down by the gravity, and the atmosphere is not thick enough. As you can see, it's still the dark of almost space. It's not until we get to, I think, like 36 or 35 kilometers up that it really gets dense enough to do much. But we still gave ourselves a very gentle orbital or orbital insertion? No. A very gentle, there's the flames. A very gentle deorbit path. If we look at this, we can see, yeah, we can see what the predictions are. It's going to slow us down, so we might just splash down here. It's kind of a toss-up at this point. Which way is forward? The way the heat rings were lighting it up made it confusing. So, I think because I have this run on normal / custom, heat effects are lower than what they normally would be. Ooh, but there's some cool things. Oh, nice. I believe these are a mod. I could be wrong, though. These could be new effects. Could be custom effects, modded effects. So what are we going to do? Yeah, I think we're going to splash down, which is good. Splashdown is typically what you would have, well, is what he did. John Glenn did, I believe. And it is also what, you know, how a lot of these missions ended in the real world. Alright, so we're still coming down. Okay, so it's not 36. Maybe it's like 25 where it gets really heavy. But we're slowing down. And we're not falling that insanely fast down. We're going sideways, which is good. For orbital reinsertion, for a deorbit, you want to come in sideways through the atmosphere so you can skim through it, and it gradually slows you down. If you come straight down, you're going to hit it hard, and it's not going to slow you down as well as you would like, but it's going to crank your G-forces up. And if you were a human, it would kill you. Oh, yeah, good. Splashdown. Awesome. But this has been a very gentle insertion. You see how we're only 10 degrees up from the surface line? If we rotate around like this, there we go. We are 10 degrees up. Not quite 10 degrees up from horizontal. So that's pretty good. That's pretty generous. Like I said, we are getting down there. Wow, that's a big flame trail. I bet it's one flame trail for whatever ship you put, even if it's a tiny ship like this. So we are about to exit the stage where you get heating. It's about 12 to 1300. We should see these heating effects start to dissipate. Dissipate. Come on. Dissipate? There we go. Now we see it calming down. Still going fast enough to be heated here, especially because the atmosphere is a little thick. I'm just going to put that there. We'll light the parachutes first, and then we'll disengage this stage down here. And the heat shield didn't even ablate at all. There was no heat shield ablation because the engine took the brunt of all of that. So we're slowing down. We're 13,000. We're still going fairly fast. We're experiencing 2 Gs Kerbals are made to experience plenty of G's. He'll be fine. But once we get down to 2.5 meters, or 250, sorry, meters per second, quarter kilometer per second, that's it, a quarter kilometer per second, we will engage the parachutes. We might not get to that point. I'll engage them at 5 kilometers if we haven't gotten that slow. We're slowing down. Our rate of slowing is slowing down. Ooh, we're going to splash down maybe right on the coastline, which is interesting. And that's close enough for me. We're going to engage the parachutes. I don't know why they didn't deploy. That's interesting. Deploy. Just manually deployed them. There we go. So that was a bit rougher than I would have liked. I think I could tweak the settings for that. We can ditch this stage now. Oh, now the parachutes are there. Okay. Oh, because I never activated that engine, so that's why it didn't actually stage. Goodbye. And now we're going to drop nice and slowly down for a leisurely descent back to, well, to the water, to the shore. That's actually really fortuitous because we can be picked up and just drugged to the shore instead of picked up by an aircraft carrier, like I believe was the case for John Glenn. But there we have it, our first Kerbin, our first human, if you want to do the recreation, in orbit. Okay, let's physics warp, get you down here. This will take a few minutes to get down. It might even take a few minutes in this accelerated time. And the flight lasted 2 hours and 6 minutes. I believe his actual flight lasted almost 5 hours, but Earth is much larger than Kerbin. The orbit is larger, all those things. So it's a decent comparison, decent effort, I think. You know, I mean, it was my effort, so I think it was decent. All right, the last few meters to come to a splashdown. Hey, look, John Glenn, you could swim to the coast. You could swim, but you'll be picked up by our recovery teams. Oh, splashdown, like, directional. That's interesting. I hadn't seen that before. And there we are. Jeb is back home. He looks happy and excited to be back on solid ground. And you're just, like, solid there. You're not even... Oh, because SAS is on? I can move you around. But you rotate more or less back to up and down. Cool. So there we are. We can recover this vessel. And we have done our first orbit with a manned mission. At this point, I believe they had done orbits with an unmanned mission, with satellites and whatnot. Obviously, Sputnik was first, etc., etc. Cool. And yep, Jeb is 1, so he advanced during flight, which I think is a really cool feature. So there we are with the Mercury-Atlas 6, our first orbit. Oh yeah, what were the messages? World's first, yay, 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 splash, return, orbit. So we got some money and some science just for doing that, and I failed to get the contract. Oh yeah, I lost the stages. Boo. Yeah, I should have said, get to the moon. Or, get to the moon, that's next. I should have gotten the orbit first, and that would have given us some extra money and research and stuff. Now there's a bunch of missions to test things and whatnot, and I'll probably do some of these off camera. Explore the moon. That's coming? I have to do research to see what was next. For the moon, I want to do a Saturn V mission. I really do. Kind of like the Acapello, whatever. The built mission in the game, in the new missions version. Or section of the game. Blech. Anyway, that'll be it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. If you like, hit subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, pass the word. I will catch you later.